It was the coldest night of the winter of 1944. 6 feet underground, 200 men held their breath. They had been digging for 365 days, with spoons, with flattened tin cans, with their bare hands. And in that moment, the guard stopped. One of the men beneath his feet had made a small mistake that morning, a mistake that could cost 200 people their lives. What you're about to hear is not a movie, although Hollywood did turn it into one. This is the story of how 600 Allied prisoners of war, pilots, engineers, spies, literally built a secret city beneath a Nazi camp. They forged identity documents. They tailored civilian disguises. They created an underground factory of tools, and they dug not one, but 3 simultaneous tunnels. All of this under the nose of the Gestapo, and under the feet of hundreds of armed guards. How many made it? What happened to those who were caught? Stay with me, because the worst part comes at the end. To understand what these men did, you first need to understand where they were. Stalag Luft III, a prisoner of war camp built by the Luftwaffe, the German Air Force, specifically engineered to be escape-proof. It was no ordinary camp. The Nazis had built it on sand. Loose, bright yellow sand. Why does that matter? Because if you dug a tunnel, that yellow sand would appear on the surface, and the guards would spot it in seconds. The camp was located in the Silesia region in what is now Poland. In winter, temperatures dropped to -4 degrees Fahrenheit. In summer, the heat was suffocating. But the Germans made a mistake, a massive mistake. They put the most brilliant men of the Allied armies all in the same place. 10,000 prisoners lived here, shot down pilots, captured officers, men who, before the war, had been engineers, architects, actors, lawyers, and they all shared the same obsession: escape. But not individually, not like desperate animals. What they were planning was something that had never been attempted before in the history of warfare. The man behind everything was Roger Bushell, RAF pilot, South African barrister, and the most dangerous mind that ever walked into that camp. Bushell had escaped twice before. Twice he'd been recaptured. The Gestapo knew him, watched him, and still he kept planning. In the spring of 1943, he called a secret meeting. He walked into the barracks with a cold smile and said these exact words: "Everyone has been trying small escapes, 30-meter tunnels, groups of 2 or 3. That ends now. We are going to do something that shakes the Third Reich to its foundations." The plan was called Operation 200, but the name history would remember was different. The Great Escape. The idea was simple in concept, impossible in execution. Dig 3 tunnels simultaneously. If the Germans found one, the other 2 would continue. The tunnels had code names: Tom, Dick, Harry. Tom would run toward the western forest. Dick would serve as a storage chamber. Harry would be the one to carry them to freedom. But digging was only 10% of the problem. The other 90% was this: how were 200 men going to survive once they were outside the wire? They needed German identity papers, work cards, passports, travel permits. They needed civilian clothes, fake German uniforms. They needed maps, compasses, real money, and they needed none of the 300 guards surrounding the camp to find out. So they built something no one expected. They built a city. Beneath the barracks of Stalag Luft III, another world existed. A world the Germans never saw. Each tunnel was less than 3 feet wide. Men had to drag themselves face down. To prevent collapse, they lined the walls with wood. Where did the wood come from? Their own beds. Every prisoner donated the slats from his bunk. In the end, more than 4,000 bed boards went into the earth. How did they breathe? They built a ventilation system out of powdered milk tins. One person manually pumped air from the entrance while another dug in complete darkness. How did they move inside the tunnel? They built small wheeled platforms like tiny trolleys, made from wooden boards and bearings stripped from kitchen trolley wheels. And the biggest problem, the yellow sand. If it appeared on the surface, guards would detect it within seconds. How did they hide it? Prisoners sewed bags inside their trousers. They went out for walks around the compound. And as they walked, they slowly released the sand through strings tied to their ankles. They walked slowly, let the sand fall, stamped it down, and no one noticed a thing for months. But the tunnels were just the beginning. Inside the barracks, a clandestine industry operated with specialized departments. The documents department, 50 men producing fake passports, identity cards, and travel permits. How did they copy official Nazi stamps? With dessert gelatin. They used real documents obtained by bribing guards to make molds and transfer the markings onto paper. The clothing department. The camp's tailor converted military uniforms into civilian suits using coffee dye and charcoal powder to change the colors. The tools department. Compasses from watch crystals and magnetized needles. Lamps from grease and cloth strips. Everything, absolutely everything, made from nothing. And there was an internal intelligence system called the Penguins. 200 men whose sole function was to watch the guards. Every movement of every German in the camp was monitored and communicated through coded signals. If a guard approached a suspicious barracks, the alarm triggered within seconds and everything disappeared. In October 1943, the Germans found Tunnel Tom. A guard stepped on the ground and felt it hollow beneath his boot. They broke it open, and they froze. In front of them was 330 feet of perfect underground engineering. Electric lighting, rails, a full ventilation system. The camp commandant erupted in fury. But they found neither Dick nor Harry. The prisoners didn't even blink. They just smiled. And the next day, they went back to digging. March 24th, 1944. Winter. Temperature, 14 degrees Fahrenheit. Tunnel Harry was ready. 365 feet long. It was supposed to emerge at the edge of the forest. Or so they thought. At 10 p.m., the first of the 200 men crawled into the tunnel. Perfect forged documents, civilian clothing, real money, a fabricated cover story. But then the first mistake happened. The tunnel was 10 feet shorter than calculated. The exit didn't reach the forest. It ended in open ground, in plain sight of the guard tower. The first man out discovered this. He swallowed his panic. He set up a signal system with a rope. When the path was clear, he pulled. Only then would the next man emerge. One by one, in the extreme cold, the men came out. Until at 1 a.m., a guard saw something move in the snow. The entire camp lit up with searchlights. 76 men had escaped. The Great Escape had begun. What followed was the largest manhunt of the Second World War. Hitler was woken at 4 a.m. The news sent him into an absolute rage. He ordered more than 70,000 people mobilized. Police, Gestapo, Wehrmacht, armed civilians. Every train, every road, every farmhouse was searched. Of the 76 escapees, 73 were recaptured. Only 3 made it to Allied territory. 3. But what Hitler ordered next was something that changed the history of the war. He ordered 50 of the captured men executed. Not imprisoned. Executed. 50 men, pilots, officers, men with names and families, were taken from their cells, led to open ground, and shot. Roger Bushell, the mastermind behind the entire operation, was one of them. After the war, the RAF spent years identifying those responsible for the murders. Of the Gestapo officers who carried out the order, 21 were put on trial. 18 were convicted. 13 were executed. Justice came. Late, but it came. Was it worth it? That's the question historians have been asking for 80 years. Only 3 of 76 made it home. 50 died. So what was the point? Because the goal was never to escape. The goal was to force the Nazis to divert thousands of soldiers, agents, and resources to hunt them down. Every hour those 70,000 Germans spent chasing prisoners was an hour they weren't spending at the front. Bushell knew it from the beginning. The escape wasn't the end. The escape was the war. Today, where Stalag Luft 3 once stood, there is a monument. The names of the 50 are carved into it, and 6 feet beneath that monument, the tunnels are still there.